Welcome to today's presentation, Unplug in Peace, Tips to Maintain Patient Care and Budget While Accommodating Summer Schedules. I'm Megan Francis. I'm Marketing Coordinator over here at Updox. So again, thank you for joining us either on your lunch hour or your morning hour. Today's webinar is going to be a little bit different. We're joined by a very special guest who will be walking us through the Updox application live to discuss how Updox can help practices just like yours enjoy the summer months by building out customized workflows to ensure you stay front of mind for your referral sources, stay engaged with your patients, manage all incoming and outgoing communications, doing this all remotely from anywhere with an internet connection. So to get us started, we'll walk through just a quick agenda of what we'll talk about today. First, we're going to be discussing who Updox is, our mission statement, what exactly we mean by simplifying healthcare, and from there, we will discuss the problems that we solve for healthcare and the solutions that we use to do so. So who exactly is Updox? Updox was started about 8 years ago. I know we have some customers on the line, so you're probably a little bit familiar with who we are. So we were started by a physician that was super frustrated by the lack of software provided to healthcare practices. So we started as a very small company providing small-scale solutions to independent practices around the country. Today we offer a robust suite of solutions expanding across the United States with over 100 EMR integrations, over 300,000 users on our application, and that's covering over 72 million patients around the United States. Updox at its core is a communication platform meant to simplify your overall business efficiency and improve the process you have in place at your practice. So what does simplifying mean to you exactly? Simplifying means moving from reactive to proactive. So how exactly can you accomplish this? First off, you can operate your practice as a business, so cutting costs wherever necessary, improving ROI, and boosting the satisfaction of your staff and your colleagues that you work with on a day-to-day basis. Second, you can treat your patients as customers. Healthcare is always changing, and with that, your patients are acting more as consumers. They're looking for the best locations, the best prices, and the best overall process you can provide from your business to ensure their healthcare isn't getting in the way of their day-to-day routine. Being able to engage your patients in the ways that they prefer, meaning usually mobily, is proving to be a great strategy for this. Third, you can generate new revenue. So improving your communication channels creates new revenue lines by connecting with other providers and other specialists to keep your practice front of mind for all of your referral network. It helps you engage patients on new offerings and educate them to ensure they're taking full advantage of all of your services, and then keeping clear channels to communicate with those payers for reimbursements. And finally, we connect you remotely. So you can connect with all of the contacts in your address book to ensure you never miss a message again, remotely anywhere with an internet connection. So what problems can we solve for you? With this remote access, you can start to tackle some of the problems that you run into on a daily basis. Specifically, we help administrators fully invest in the technology available to them. We can help you track, audit, and simplify all of your administrative process. We help develop opportunity management to make certain you optimize the connections you're making outside of the examination room. We treat patients as consumers and develop strategies for you to stay in front of them and help them become advocates for their care. And we create a fluid line of communication for you to communicate with other providers and also keep it 100% HIPAA compliant. Just a quick quote from one of our longtime users before we dive into the live demo. At Updox, we aren't trying to put a Band-Aid on your issues. We truly are trying to research the struggles you come into on a day-to-day basis in an independent practice and really develop strategies and solutions to fix those problems. With Updox, you're able to run your practice on your terms while improving overall business efficiencies. How do you do that exactly? You do that with a suite of solutions that we've developed to make it simpler for your practice. And we'll run through all of those in just a quick second and how our users are optimizing their technology with Updox for their EMR. But we do that with solutions like our patient experience solutions, specifically the automated appointment reminders, on-demand patient and referral network notifications, SMS quick send, so on-the-fly messaging, secure text, and an available patient portal where patients can access information and you can communicate on a day-to-day basis. We also do this with solutions in our practice optimization side, so HIPAA-compliant fax, document management systems, a dynamic editor with electronic signature that allows you to edit documents on the fly within your system, and custom templates for all practice communication. So without any more delay, I'll introduce our speaker for the day. Katie Lashy has been with Updox from the very beginning and has a unique knowledge on how independent practices are using Updox to really streamline all manual process and really clean up that administrative workflow. So without further ado, I will go ahead and pass the reins to Ms. Lashy. Just one second.
All right, thank you, Megan, so much for the introduction. As she mentioned, I have been with Updox for a little over 5 years now. I started on the sales team. I've spent some time with the marketing team. Some of my favorite times at Updox have been out at user conferences, getting to know some of the customers that we have and understanding the workflows that they kind of experience on a day-to-day, really listening to hear what is painful, what takes you away from patient care, what are the parts about your individual jobs that you're not as passionate about. Because at Updox, what we try to do is take some of those pains and take some of that administrative burden and alleviate it so that you can spend more time with patients. I am going to take you through some of our customers' favorite workflows that we've kind of gathered over the years. So kind of at the core, you know that we can help you manage documents, send them to the chart. We can help you stay in front of patients with text, phone, and email communications in a variety of different ways. So what I'm going to walk through today is not just listing out the things that we can do, but really talking about how our customers are leveraging those capabilities to make their days easier. At its core, Updox is a web-based application. So what you're seeing on my screen here is the Updox inbox. We designed it to be as intuitive as possible, so it looks a lot like an email inbox. So if you're a first-time user and you're hopping in, you can kind of get the sense that I have some newer messages on top, my older messages are down below, I can kind of preview the message or the document to kind of see what it is and determine my next steps. And what this really gives you is visibility and accessibility outside of the four walls of your practice. And I think that is especially important in the summer months as you might step away from the practice for a few days, but you want to be in touch for urgent items, for instance, which we'll walk through some of those workflows. Or if you have certain providers or people in your practice that bounce between locations. The value of a web-based application as compared to a paper fax or a manual phone call process or even a fax server, which is hardware-based, is that you really do have access to a lot of the administrative workflows for your practice when you're outside of the four walls of your practice. So talking through the inbox a bit further, some of the easier things that you could do, as I mentioned, you can kind of mouse over the document to determine your next steps. Now, if you're in the office, maybe you're ready to manage this document, send it to the chart, fax it back out. If you're outside of the office, you can also do quick things like tag it to kind of remind yourself and maybe your practice team that you're working with that you've acknowledged this document, but it's not urgent at that time. So you could label these tags to convey urgency or status. You could also label those tags to convey ownership, and those are probably some of the more popular ways that those tags are used. You can also, as you're managing this document, communicate back with members of your team, whether they're back inside of the practice or if you're all kind of remote for a few days. You have a nice comment feature here where you could say, let her know something, let someone at the practice know kind of a follow-up action to take on this document. So let's say I'm a provider and I'm out of the four walls of the office. I can receive this lab work, kind of see that everything is in zones that aren't concerning to me, and let my practice staff make that call to the patient, let them know everything's okay, and then they can either file it themselves or I would even have the power to file. So the other thing about Updox, which is really neat, you can either grab this document and save it to your desktop just by picking and choosing your pages, or you can send these pages to the patient's chart right from the sending screen. So I'm going to go ahead and hit send item and type in my patient's name. And as Megan mentioned, we are partnered with over 100 different EMRs out there. And as a part of those integrations, we're oftentimes able to mimic some of the workflows that exist inside of the EMR as well. So if you're server-based, so you have a server room in the back of your practice that runs the EMR and stores your patient data, you could actually be filing even though you're not inside of the practice in that instance. So I would basically give it a title. We often sync with your categories. In some instances, we're actually able to mimic the tasking function or an inbox function. So if you needed to notify the doctor that they needed to look at this, you could do so from here. Or if you're a smaller practice and you're doing some of the filing on your own and you are the provider at the end of the day, you could actually sign off on this document as you're filing it, all remotely from a sending screen. So whether I'm inside of the practice or outside of the practice, I'm able to view a document, message with my staff, file it to the chart. Depending on the partner, we actually are able to send these types of documents to patients through a secure message as well, all again from anywhere with an internet connection. If you did have a document that you needed to edit, for instance, and bear with me, my internet connection I think is running a little bit slow with this GoToWebinar. So let's say a document comes in like a refill request and you need to take action on it. There's two main things that really separate Updox from a fax server. If you have gone kind of electronic but not super slick electronic, you probably are receiving things digitally, but you have a hard time breaking them apart page by page, so you end up bringing them back to paper anyways. With Updox, you can pick and choose your pages using these little checkboxes down below. The other big differentiator between Updox and a fax server would be that you're able to mark up a document. So we have a full editor that you can take advantage of. So this is a refill request that I'm going to refill while I'm out. I'm going to go ahead and use the checkbox function and say it's okay to do generic. I'm going to put in how many refills there should be after this. I'm going to ask them to call the patient when ready. And then this is the part that providers really like. You could do a one-click signature to get this document on its way. And oftentimes, I know that we do have some customers on the line today, oftentimes your administrative staff is doing a lot of the faxing and filing in a practice. And from a provider side, you're only acknowledging the documents when they get to the chart. You either sign off on them and they make it to the chart, or you write a note back to your team. But if you are stepping out of the office and you wanted to still participate in those workflows from a practice perspective, short of having access to the patient database in your EMR, you could actually hop into Updox and be signing off on documents on the go. So it might be unusual for you to be inside of Updox managing documents this way, but you do have the flexibility to hop in here when you are out of the office. So from here, I need to send this out to a pharmacy, obviously. So I'm going to grab my page, hit the send button. I can go ahead and type a fax number that I want to send. We include custom cover sheets out of the box for all of our customers. You could have a library of cover sheets if you have different purposes or different locations. You could type in a message, so you have kind of a subject line and a message section so that you could customize that cover sheet even as you're sending it out, maybe give some instructions. We have a templating feature, because the other thing we try to do at Updox is if we recognize you're doing something more than a couple of times, we try to save you some steps and clicks. So if you're sending the same note out about an RX refill over and over again, you could create a template to go ahead and send that on its way. So now again, whether I'm in the office or out of the office, I've managed a document electronically. If I wanted to record that this had happened inside of the patient's chart, that same sending screen you might have noticed that I used to fax out and file to the patient's chart, completely intentional that it's one sending screen for both, because you can do both at the same time. So if I type in my patient's name, whose chart I want to put this in, and I can choose my category that I want to send it to, sign off on it. I could also add in a fax number, and I could have faxed and filed that simultaneously. So I would have record of this action having taken place inside of the chart. I would have sent this prescription off to the pharmacy to be refilled, and if I'm getting really fancy, I could even send the patient a message letting them know that I had done so using our patient portal feature. So a really, really powerful tool that gives you quick and easy workflows for managing documents, whether you're in the office or out of the office. Now, if you are out of the practice for the day, let's say some of you might check in at the end of the day or every few days and kind of use the tagging feature to let your team know what's important or not important, or even just let your kind of for your own peace of mind to make sure you're reviewing things. Others might unplug unless something comes in. So if you'd like to be notified as documents are coming in, there's actually a notifications feature as well for yourself. If I go to the admin section and go to users, I can choose to be notified by email anytime a fax or secure message comes in. So if you're using Updox to communicate internally with members of your practice, if they send you a secure message, you can get an email that says, hey, your practice is messaging you, log in to check what they need. If you're receiving faxes, you could receive an email that says, hey, you received a fax. So maybe you keep an eye on your phone while you're on some beach somewhere. And if you see 6 alerts come through that you're receiving faxes that day, it'll kind of remind you to check back in at the end of the day. So that's the notifications feature in case you wanted to truly unplug outside of the office. A few more things while we're in the menu here. I had mentioned that if you're not often in Updox, maybe you don't have your signature set up right off the bat, so I wanted to make sure I showed you where to do that. If you go to Tools and then My Signature, it'll walk you through a super easy wizard where you basically sign a piece of paper, scan it into the computer, and save your signature for future use. It'll also prompt you to add one the first time you try and use it, if you find us that way too. And then if you weren't using tags yet and you were interested in getting started with that, you do have 20 custom tags that you can use. Again, the most common way that people use these to keep kind of a tidy inbox and organize would be conveying urgency, conveying status, type of document, or ownership are probably the most common use cases for these tags. And again, to get there, I went to Admin Tags from the main menu. Oh, Megan is correcting me. We have 39 tags now. We used to have 20 tags, and that was a frequent feature request. That's the other thing about Updox. We're updating things for you in direct response to our customers' feedback, and more tags was a common request. The other really great feature about Updox being available remotely is that you have visibility on your schedule. So again, if you are scheduling inside of your EMR, unless you are inside the 4 walls of your practice, you probably can't see your schedule. With Updox, users that are taking advantage of our patient messaging as far as reminders go, we often sync with the schedule in real time, depending on the EMR integration. And even if we aren't syncing with the schedule in real time, we have a bunch of customers using us just to upload their schedules on a day-to-day basis, because it's a really powerful solution for sending a text message versus a phone call versus an email. And we report on it for you so you can kind of tell what your patients are reacting to. So let me pick a time frame with some good information here. So what this would give you the ability to do is recognize your upcoming schedule. So if you have patients who are confirming appointments, you're able to see kind of the overall status of the appointment response here. You have the option to look one schedule at a time, so just one provider. You could choose from the schedules inside of your EMR if you wanted to kind of isolate to look for availability. You can choose one date at a time, so if you just wanted to look at tomorrow, for instance, you have that option, or you can look at a date range. And then even beyond seeing what the outcome is at an appointment level, we actually drill down to the reminders that have gone out and what the outcome was of those reminders. So you can actually see your phone calls, your text messages, and your emails going out. I know with patient-facing solutions, It's a big concern to automate if you don't understand what exactly is coming out from your practice. So we provide as much visibility as possible. We also provide a ton of customization options in terms of if you want it to be a computer voice, a human voice, foreign language, if you wanted to mention different appointment types in the message, if you wanted to remind them to fast for 24 hours for certain appointments, or make sure they know which location they're going to for a multi-location practice. We have a ton of customization in that way. But what's cool about this dashboard in general from a remote perspective is that you actually can look at your schedule in real time, even if you're not inside of the practice. Summer is especially important for appointment reminders if you think about what you're competing with from a headspace perspective. So you've got school ending, you've got summer vacations, you've got kids staying home from school with their parents, you've just got busy schedules, summer activities, summer sports, and all of those things are kind of competing for their attention to make sure that they show up at those appointments. Because of course, from your perspective, if they were to miss that appointment, not only do you have the hour so it might take your staff to track them back down and get them back on the schedule, but you also have the copay and the reimbursement you miss from them not showing up to their appointment. And then even beyond that, you have the care that they might have needed at that point in time that they missed in the absence of an appointment. So a super important time in summer to keep your appointments up to date, and the patient messaging reminder specifically is a really great tool for that. The other great thing that we do inside of the inbox as far as giving you the opportunity to take action. So anytime a patient cancels, so I guess if they confirm, if you decide you want your patients to be able to confirm and cancel their appointments, you're going to receive those responses, and you can look at those confirmations in this dashboard that I'm looking at right here. You also will get proactive notifications in the very same inbox for appointment cancellation. So anytime a patient cancels their appointment, you're going to be served a notice inside of this inbox. It'll say appointment canceled. It'll tell you the patient. It'll tell you when the appointment is. And that gives you the opportunity to either shoot off a quick message to them asking them to reschedule. It also gives you the opportunity to send a message to someone else who might have been waiting for an appointment. So really keeping that wait list down is another great feature as far as that reminders goes. And we have a couple ways that we can help you do that. So the same dashboard that you are looking at from a confirmations perspective is also going to give you a list of canceled appointments. So if you wanted to go in and build a list of 10 to 20 patients who had canceled their appointments and fire off a message to get them to reschedule, that would be a great use case for kind of our one-to-many solution that we call Blast. And you can send Blast messages either by phone call, text, or email. I'd say text is probably the most commonly used. And what you're able to do is build lists kind of one at a time with these patients, or if you wanted to segment your patient list by age or male, female, that sort of thing, you can kind of build a list that way. And then you can type a message in here and send it out. So that would be a really great feature if you are trying to get those cancellations back on the schedule. Another great feature, you could use like a running wait list. So let's say you build a wait list inside of Updox, and then as people gather those appointments, you remove them from the list. Anytime someone cancels, you can hop in here and fire off a message that says, hey, we just had a cancellation. This was the date and time. Let me know if you're able to make it. And the first person that responds gets that open appointment slot. So really leveraging that solution to keep your schedule full inside of Updox. And again, you're able to manage any of this outside of the office as well. The other way that you're able to manage this workflow, if you don't have kind of a list, maybe it's just one message that you need to send out. Maybe every time someone cancels, you want to fire off one message to them, encouraging them to get back on the schedule. Maybe there's just one patient that you know has been trying to get in. Maybe you see a cancellation come through and you're worried about that patient having canceled that appointment. So you really want to target them to get them back on the schedule. We not only have the one-to-many solution in the Blast tool, but we also have a one-on-one text solution. So this little bubble up top here gives you the ability to text your patients. And this text is going to be coming from your practice number, not your personal number. A few value points there. You won't be blown up by text messages for your patients when you're out of the office. It also, when they respond to you, will show up inside of your Updox inbox. So it's not just up to you to respond to them. It's kind of a group inbox as far as your practice is concerned, so that you can get them registered and back on the schedule. But basically what you'd be able to do is type in a phone number here, type in your message, and then go ahead and send it out. And if that patient responds to you, again, it'll show up inside of the very same inbox that you're using for fax, for patient portal, for appointment reminders, for these one-to-many blast notifications. The web-based inbox, as far as Updox is concerned, consolidates all of those different messages into one inbox, which is super valuable for our customers. I did want to mention, I'm sure that this question will come up quickly after, if not already, but this text message today is not a HIPAA compliant message. It's just an SMS plain text message. We do have secure text coming out in just about a month, I believe. So we'll have more information on that coming. But in these messages specifically, you wouldn't want to mention any PHI. Whereas our secure text option coming out soon, you'd actually be able to put in something about their care specifically and not worry about patient identifiers, because they do have to opt in and it would be HIPAA compliant. So today we have, just to kind of rehash our patient messaging solutions, we have appointment reminders that sync with the schedule. We have one-to-many capability where you could send a phone call, text, or email to a group of patients. And then we have one-on-one text messaging that you could use to exchange messages with patients from your Updox inbox. Okay, so that's kind of an overview of some of our document management solutions and patient engagement solutions that I think would be the most helpful either inside of the practice or outside of the practice as you are stepping out into summer. I also wanted to talk about some of our customer stories that have been using Updox to kind of even out their schedule. So right after summer, you run into the fall where you have kids going back to school, which means they have physicals that they need for sports. They have immunizations that they need. You have kids going back to college that need immunizations. You also have sick season because everyone starts touching everything and germs are crawling up the walls. Just a really, really busy time for practices, especially those that are in kind of primary care or family medicine, which we have a lot of customers in those fields as well. This specific workflow was recently shared by one of our newer customers, and we'll actually, would be great if we'd send like the customer story around after that, because he's using our one-to-many messaging a few really cool ways. But they really took it to a whole new level. So knowing that their schedule was going to be full in the fall with physicals and annual exams and all of that, this particular doctor had used the Blast tool to bring people in for their physical exams ahead of the school year. So they took advantage of their slower summer schedule, shot a blast message out to, I think he had done like ages 13 to 17, encouraged them to come into the practice, took care of a whole bunch of physicals that otherwise would have been crowding out the fall schedule when he's doing immunizations, because you can't really do a flu shot until the flu shots come in, right? So there's certain things that couldn't move, but he recognized an opportunity to move some of the things that could, and really leveraged the co-pays and the reimbursements and all that good stuff in the summer months. The other thing he used it for, which is not evening out the schedule, but it's just kind of a cool story. He had really believed in this certain vaccine and the cause. It was actually the HPV cause specifically for children, because he was a pediatric practice. So he sent out educational content ahead of appointments to certain children in that age range before they came into the practice. So when he walked into the room, he said that having kind of their palate with that information ahead of time, rather than starting the conversation. In the 10 minutes that he had allotted to them, he was answering questions about it and actually administering the vaccine. So he really he was able to fuel kind of a care that he thought was really, really important. He started the conversation before the patient got there. He was able to answer the questions and actually close the loop and administer the treatment that he had thought was a good idea at the time. So just another use case for that one-to-many messaging. That doctor specifically, again, a really great user story that we'll send around. Some of the other reasons that we've seen Blast used, especially pertaining to the busy fall season, would be bringing people in for those flu shots. We talk about the use case for that quite a bit because it's a pretty obvious one. If you have like a 3,000 patient panel and we're able to drive another 10% of your patient population into the practice for a flu shot, instead of sending them to like the Walgreens or the Kroger, you could get another $3,000 into your practice when you think about the reimbursement for that immunization. So just a few fall rush examples of that one-to-many messaging tool. And then the other use case I wanted to mention about kind of busy fall schedules would be the same one-to-many or one-to-workflow that we described earlier. Can help keep that schedule even and your waitlist manual. So every time that message comes in that says someone's canceled their appointment, you could have a waiting list waiting that you're sending messages to, or just shoot one-offs as those come in to kind of keep that schedule even. So just a little bit of seasonal color to the use cases of Updox, evening out the schedule, driving more revenue in the fourth quarter, and above all else, keeping your day manageable, which is what we're ultimately hoping to do for you here. So I'm going to kick it back to Megan. She has a few more things to go through, I believe, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Katie. I hope that was as helpful for you guys as it was for me. Obviously, I work here, but her knowledge is vast, and she has a lot more use cases than a lot of us do. So thank you so much, Katie. That was great. Let me just dive right back into the presentation here. So yeah, from here, I want to go into just this quote from one of our users, just to shine a little bit of light on exactly how Updox helps them in kind of a simpler way. So honestly, Updox is cheap, it's efficient, has zero learning curve. As you saw, it's really, really intuitive, set up like an email inbox. So your staff shouldn't have a lot of trouble getting set up and ramped up on it. So as Dr. Ortega would say, I'd tell any independent doctor, simplify your life with Updox and you won't look back. So the Updox difference truly is we just try to simplify all of your workflows, your administrative workflows, and automate some of those things that your staff is spending a lot of time kind of doing on a day-to-day basis that's hindering you guys from really having a patient-centric practice. So again, we want to help you improve efficiency, remotely engage patients and other providers, create workflows that are customized to your practice, and create more opportunity as a business. So how can you get started with Updox? I know we do have a lot of customers on the line today, but how can you get started if you are new to Updox? We have a 15-day free trial. You can get signed up on our monthly subscription. We are no contract. So if you decide that you don't like Updox after using it for 15 days, no worries. You can cancel with kind of no problem. And then we also offer free training and free support as well. You can contact us at the number and email below.